Welcome to County Municipal Government Committee. We're running only just a few minutes behind, which is good for us. Just coming out of caucus, and so we'll go ahead and get started with the first bill on the calendar. Oh, we got to call the roll. See, I'm out of practice. Thank you, Jen. Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Senator Albritton. Present. Senator Carnley. Senator Coleman. Senator Gudger. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Coleman Madison. Here. Senator Chambliss. Here. Senator Elliott.
Here. We have a quorum. Thank you, and thanks for getting me back in the swing of things. Good to see everybody. Welcome back. And we've got a great calendar for you here today. We're going to get started with Senator Orr and his SB 82. Senator, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members. This is a pretty simple bill. I've got Trish Melberg with the DA's Association in the room behind you in case there's a serious question, but this comes from a constituent issue where a constituent issue where I had a person back home that was in a fight 12, 14 years ago in a Dollar General store outside in the parking lot. And one person went to the local law enforcement, swore out a warrant on her. 12 years go by, 12, 14 years go by, and she gets pulled over. The other lady gets pulled over, and they have an outstanding warrant on her. Didn't know about it, long forgotten. Law enforcement, they try to go to trial. The complainer, the person who swore out the warrant, they'd long since moved off. So it cost this lady to lose her job. Again, it just kind of create a havoc. So working with the DA's Association on B and C misdemeanors, the warrant will lapse after 10 years if it's not served on a particular individual, and this would hopefully bring it up. And there's an annual audit that to try to spur them on to get these warrants served that may be outstanding for these low-level B and C's. And of course, there's exceptions for sex offenses, domestic violence, and everything. So it's a pretty simple bill.
I have a motion for favorable report by Senator Carnley, a second by Senator Chambliss. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, clerk, if you call the roll.
Senator Albritton. Senator Carnley. Senator Coleman. Senator Gudger. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Coleman Madison. Senator Chambliss. Senator Elliott.
Aye. Thank you, Senator Orr. Good piece of legislation. Wish we could have talked more about it, but okay. Next up, we have SB 78 by Senator Weaver. Butyl nitrate, nitrous oxide, amyl nitrate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would it be okay if I present from?
Yes, ma'am,
here?
of course.
I have a few. So this bill was brought to me by a parent in my district, and she was telling me about an addiction that her child had that was related to a product called Galaxy Gas. It's nitrous oxide, and it's really been eye-opening to me. If you don't believe that it's a problem for children, Google Galaxy Gas on Instagram, TikTok, you'll see what's happening. I have some products today that I'm going to pass around, so if you're a parent, you can be aware of what's being sold to our children that we're talking about. It's called Galaxy Gas, and I want to thank all the law enforcement officers who are here from my district for helping me gather this stuff to show you today. And the bill creates a new crime called unlawful possession of inhalants, Class A misdemeanor. In general, it makes it illegal to possess chemicals commonly known as whippets, laughing gas, poppers, and snappers. There's an exception if you're at least 21 and you're possessing a substance for medical treatment, manufacturing, food prep, or automotive purposes. And the exception is void if the substance had added flavors in its labeling. My law enforcement officers are here to support what I'm saying. Could they have just a few seconds to tell you a little bit about what they're seeing in their line of work?
Absolutely, Senator Weaver. I just would remind them that Shakespeare said brevity is the soul of wit. So
okay.
Whoever you've got, come on up. And
I have Lieutenant Shane Plyer, who's Executive Director of Compact in Shelby County. I have Officer Jamel Allen from the Hoover PD, and also Ms. Janae Pinson. So whoever wants to present real quickly.
Senator, thank you for the invitation. Committee, thank you for your time. I'm a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office in Shelby County. The products you're seeing in front of you are sold at gas stations and vape stores, although they clearly say on the labels they are not for inhalation. They're sitting right next to vaping products. There's very little to no regulation on these products except for self-regulation. Nitrous oxide has been a problem in America for a long time. It's been abused. It's commonly called whippets. Now the problem is it's being advertised all over social media for kids to see, and it's got flavoring in it. And if you remember the big vape, the big Juul issues we had with the flavoring was targeting our youth. It's a big draw for them. So what you've got there is essentially laughing gas in a can that's used by dental offices in a controlled environment with a lot of training and experience, and somebody could walk into a gas station and purchase that next to a Snickers bar. So we're hoping that some sort of regulation will be passed. We're seeing it passed in other states, either blanket across for no personal possession or just based on an age limit. Jamel, I've got Jamel Allen here from Hoover PD.
Thank y'all for having us. I'll be very quick. What you guys have in front of you, if you can see the box, you'll see on the front it says do not inhale. You see statements such as for culinary use only. These products were found in vape shops and in gas stations near the vapes. They're clearly being marketed and sold for recreational use. This is something that's very harmful and clearly attractive to our youth. There's a big trend on social media going on related to this stuff. We have to take a stand, Alabama, to protect our residents, protect our youth. You know, these companies, they're making a profit and our children are losing due to it. So we have to take a stand and put an end to this while we can. Thank you all for your time.
Senator Weaver, I have a question. Forgive me, I'm a little bit ignorant, but what happens when one of our kids ends up using one of these products? I'm just not familiar with the impact.
The smaller product there is a $2 product. The large canister is $75 on Amazon. No age restrictions. The kids can get it. And it becomes very expensive for the parents for the addiction therapy, and it's a very bad thing for the children from a health standpoint as well. So I'd just like to remind you, they're saying that some of this stuff is used in culinary schools, but when is the last time that you've seen a chef shopping for ingredients for his culinary stuff at a smoke shop or a convenience store?
Senator Albritton.
Oh, what is I think the question was, what's the physical ill effects?
So what it does, it causes the
I mean, I've
deprivation
had
of oxygen
laughing
to the
gas
brain.
before at the dentist,
Yeah.
okay? It does a good job, but
Now, that's in a controlled environment, like I said, for dental medical professionals, they have to go through a lot of training to be able to administer that.
so the
This
question here
product
really is availability
Yes,
and cost.
And adding flavors to the product.
And adding flavors to the product, and the flavors may be, is there any detrimental of that?
what it is, these flavors are used to attract the youth to the product.
Correct, to get them to
So-
use it.
Right, right.
And then but does nitrous oxide harm the body?
Absolutely. Long-term use of nitrous oxide can cause different risks such as brain damage, respiratory issues, and of course addiction, which could lead to more and more.
The addiction has more to do with the with the flavors possibly than the nitrous oxide?
Well, the flavors is what's going to attract them initially, but once they get used to that high, then you're going to have the addictive components of that, being used to that.
But the main danger is that nitrous oxide replaces oxygen.
Absolutely.
That's the danger. Is
The
that
prolonged
correct?
use, the type of use that we're seeing in our communities now is not what this product is made for.
Do other states regulate this?
Yes, there are a few states that have regulated it, such as Louisiana.
Louisiana, Arizona, New York, Iowa, it is already passed in their states. To put it in perspective, Senate Committee, in Shelby County, we've had our deaths due to this product have doubled from 2023 to 2024 from the coroner's office. So it is killing people.
Thank you, Senator Albritton. Senator Carnley.
So this appears the penalties go to the user of the product. Is that correct? If you're under 21 and you're, found in possession of this, then you are the one that can face the charge.
Well, also the people that are selling it.
Okay, that was my question was, what are we doing to the people that are selling these products to these kids? Are we asking these kids like, hey, where'd you buy this? And going after the business owner, trying to put them, on notice that, we don't want to tolerate this. Okay, thank you.
Senator Coleman Madison.
I guess my question would follow along Senator Carley's in the fact that, okay, they're continually allowed to sell this. and there are no penalties for people who sell it. How is that being?
Senator Weaver, can you address that, please?
Yes, certainly, and I'll be happy to work with you to add some more penalties to this if you think that we need to. We're just adding that, they can't sell it to anyone under 21, but if you want some additional penalties to make this bill stronger, I'm happy to work with you to put those in there.
Okay, my concern is, it's a Class A misdemeanor for the person who has possession of it, which is usually the minor.
Right.
Which is a year. Where's the rehabilitation? If this becomes a problem that it creates a mental issue, state of mind, wouldn't we want to have, before we get to locking that person up, allow them to get some kind of help to recover, to save that person? I mean, you go into our prison system, you come out exposed to a whole lot more than you knew about before you went in.
And that's exactly what the compact does in Shelby County, is they work with the families and with the children to help through those situations, and they educate the family. I know not every county has a resource like we have in Shelby County, but that is the goal and the purpose of what they do every day. But certainly we add the age restriction for 21, but if you want to add some additional penalties, I'll be happy to work with you to add that on there.
And I understand we're trying to get this passed, but the only thing I'm saying is that right now, where it is written, the person that is underage that is using this, it is an addictive issue that creates a mental problem. But you're going to just lock them up and no treatment.
So Senator, kind of like law enforcement on the road, the judicial system has a lot of discretion on doing probation or deferred. In Shelby County, we've got compact as a resource as well as a drug court system. So just because somebody is arrested and charged with this doesn't mean they actually go to jail or prison. A lot of times the judges and the court system tries to work with those families to get them help. And that would be more on each judicial system to incorporate something like that. Like
I'm hoping that this is, but we're passing state law, not county by county. So what Shelby County does an excellent job. I know in Jefferson County, we have drug court and things like that. But if we pass a law that blankets, and without putting any kind of caveat in there as far as making reference to the fact that before you do that, the judge would have the option to try some other kind of intervention before they lock the person up for a whole year.
Senator Albritton, did you have a question?
One more comment, if I might. This is attacking something on a retail level, when the real problem in my mind is the production of it and the distribution, whether it be Amazon or something. If nitrous oxide is dangerous, why isn't it listed in a medical aspect and handled on a medical aspect, rather than trying to attack this at the local 7-Eleven or something? That's my only comment.
Okay, thank you, Senator Albritton. I have a motion by Senator Chambliss, a second by Senator Carnley. Clerk, call the long roll on that one.
Senator Albritton? Senator Carnley? Senator Coleman? Senator Gudger? Senator Hatcher? Senator Hovey? Senator Kelly? Senator Coleman Madison?
No.
Senator Chambliss? Senator Elliott?
Aye. Okay, the bill receives a fair report. Thank you, Senator Weaver. Next bill on the calendar is by some guy named Elliott. Y'all have seen this one before. This deals with the allowance of school resource officers at private schools. We've passed this bill before. This is one of those bills that's gone to the House and had significant input from law enforcement, our friends at the County Commission Association as well. It is permissive. It requires the public entities to charge the private school for the full cost of the employees, including all benefits. It ensures.
Favorable.
I have a motion by Senator Albritton, a second by Senator Coleman Madison. Clerk, is there any other comments? Clerk, if you can call the long roll on this one, please.
Senator Albritton? Senator Carnley? Senator Coleman? Senator Gudger? Senator Hatcher? Senator Hovey? Senator Kelly? Senator Coleman Madison?
Aye.
Senator Chambliss? Senator Elliott?
Aye. Okay, bill receives a favorable report. Guys, the next one is mine as well. I'm going to skip it for now, so we'll come back to that one if we have time. And we're on Senate Bill 62 by Senator Bell. Senator Bell, welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill basically says prohibits individuals from using any license issued by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources as a valid or supplemental form of government-issued identification. Basically, your hunting and fishing license is a hunting and fishing only, and that's the only form of identification they can be used for.
I have a motion by Senator Carnley. I have a second by Senator Kelly. Any questions or comments?
One question.
Yes, sir, Senator Albritton.
It's not stated, but this deals with voting? The hunting and fishing license cannot
This
be used?
deals- This deals with firearms being purchased with a hunting and fishing license as a form of
Okay,
ID.
okay.
So
But it
everybody-
doesn't involve anything dealing with voting or it's, okay.
It just says this license is used for only hunting and fishing, gives you the permit for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
and I don't know what the hunting and fishing license look like, but.
We need
is
to
that
get you
just-
one.
Hey, you know you can get one at Walmart.
Yes, ma'am. You can get one online.
So really, it's not an official state.
I'll let sponsor.
It is a state-issued ID, or not an ID, but it's a state-issued license that allows you to hunt and fish. What we
Okay.
found was people were using that as a form of ID to purchase firearms. And this is to stop that from happening. We've worked with ATF and conservation to make it where basically you cannot purchase firearms with a
I
hunting
think
and
this
fishing
needs to be
license.
widely publicized so people will understand. And it needs to be, if not on the license, the hunting and fishing license, it needs to say that this is the only thing that you can use it for
And
because,
that's what this does. They've worked with everybody and changed the way the license is gonna look.
okay. And again, it needs to be widely publicized because if you say this is an official state ID,
It's not an ID, it's a privilege that allows you to hunt and fish.
okay, but I thought y'all just agreed that it was an ID. Oh, okay. Everything's gotta have an ID on it now. Okay.
Any other questions? I think we got that already, didn't we, Clerk? Okay, very good. Is there any objection to using the previous roll? Okay, using previous roll without objection, bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, Senator Bell. Senator Kelly, you have SB 66.
Yes, sir. What this bill does, it establishes the crime of presentment of a forged instrument with penalties to state or official documents so that there's, with the intent to defraud. I think the big thing there is the intent to defraud.
Thank you, Senator Kelly, and I appreciate you mentioning it is with knowledge and with intent, and then makes it a Class D. Senator Albritton.
If I may, I've had some experience with some of this, all right?
We may have to talk about that
Don't
offline,
ask,
sir.
don't ask, anyway. So this has to deal, let's say, for an example, someone makes a presentation of a online document and presents it as an official diploma or something. Is that a forged document? And particularly if someone goes in and finds, let's say it's from a legitimate institution, but the institution comes through and says, we never issued this.
If it's the intent to defraud, so for example, if they're coming to work for the state and it's an attempt to defraud. that
Or
gives
to a
it-
court?
Or to a court.
So Senator Albritton, to clarify too, and Senator Kelly's doing a fine job, please forgive me, but it is the presenting the instrument to an employee or official of the state or any political subdivision of the state with knowledge and intent.
I want to commend you. We have more and more of that from online stuff being presented in courts and in other activities to cheat, all right, and other matters. So, and in domestic and other matters. So I welcome this, and I would move for favorable at the appropriate time.
I have a motion by Senator Albritton. I have a second by Senator Kelly, since he sits on this committee.
Mr. Albritton, I appreciate that comment coming from you with your esteemed pedigree. Thank you, sir.
Is there any objection to using previous roll? Hearing none, bill receives a favorable report. Thank you very much. Senator Weaver, you're back. SB 77, if you would, please, ma'am. Welcome back. 77.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is a result of a trip that several of us took to the border a few months ago, and we came back and we've been working really hard on legislation since that point. This one is an effort to address the hundreds and thousands of dollars of untapped untaxed cash that are sent out of Alabama annually. People are working for cash that they don't pay taxes on, and then they're wiring it to other countries. This bill is a step towards addressing that problem. It would require money transmission businesses to collect a wire transfer fee of $7.50 plus 1.5% of amounts greater than $500. It will create the Sheriff's Immigration Enforcement and Detainer Fund, and these funds will be used to help sheriffs with expenses related to enforcing immigration laws and housing violators of immigration laws. This bill will allow taxpayers a tax credit for these fees if they are filing Alabama income tax.
Got it. Okay, Senator Albritton?
Well, I'd like to find out who gets the money. You mentioned the sheriffs. Does it go to the sheriffs in general? Does it go to?
Yes, it goes to the Sheriff's Department.
Which sheriff's department?
All the sheriff's departments. It will be, and if you look in the bill,
Pro rata or?
yes, it will be defined by population, and the money will be divided among all the counties based on population and sent back in this new fund. We have sheriff's offices who are dealing with.
I don't have a problem with that. What's the fiscal note on that? Do you know? Do you know how much we anticipate?
I do not have a fiscal note.
I think Randy knows.
Senator,
I'll find out. Never mind. I just want, my interest there is fiscal in nature.
Yep.
So I'll talk to you later. I don't have a problem with the bill. I apologize.
okay, no problem. Other questions? Senator Chambliss?
So if I'm understanding this correctly, if I am paying Alabama income taxes correctly,
Yes.
I file these fees on my Alabama
Yes.
income taxes.
And you get a tax credit for that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Senator Hatcher?
I see international. Why is that?
Because most wire transfers that we're looking at of this nature are going internationally. Most of them are going to South and Central America.
So if we have individuals who work in this country and who legitimately make the money, and they usually sharing this money with their family at home, now we're saying there's a fee on that for them to wire?
There is a fee because if it's a cash payment, they're not paying taxes on this money. So they're just like you and I pay taxes to help contribute to the resources that we use. It would have this fee to help the sheriff's departments deal with some of the issues that are related to.
But you also said that, in your trip to the border, this is one of the impetus for doing this. So this is a fee that we are placing on individuals, again, who are legitimately working and who already pay taxes. They actually already pay taxes.
But do they?
So why is it, what are we doing here?
If
Because
they're
this
being
amount-
paid in cash, they're probably not paying
No,
taxes.
no, but they pay taxes already. In fact, I think the last time I saw statistics indicates somewhere around $98 billion in money that they don't even get back.
Okay. I was hoping we were going to wait just a second. Senator Hatcher, I hate to interrupt you. Please forgive
I
me.
hate for you to interrupt me.
Yes, sir. Please forgive.
Can I finish what I was saying?
As long as that crowd stays quiet, you may. But
Thank you.
I just need them to stay quiet. Please forgive me for
I didn't even
interrupting.
hear them. I'm focused on what she's saying.
Yes, sir. I wanted everybody to hear what you were saying.
Thank you,
and
sir.
I was distracted, so please forgive me.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Because this amounts to theft. Why are we taking this money? And unless I get some understanding of this and we see that fiscal note, I absolutely cannot support this at all. So I'm hopeful that we can have a little bit more conversation about this, because basically we're taking these fees already. We said it's international. People are already sending money home, and they already pay taxes for which they're not able to enjoy.
But I would say they're not paying income tax. If they are paying income tax, they can file the credit.
But they're paying taxes.
But they're
They
not
are
paying
paying a
income
tax.
tax.
Well, granted. Okay.
Thank you, Senator Hatcher. And again, please forgive me for the interrupting. I just want to make sure everybody heard you. Senator Coleman Madison.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Question I have is, I want to come at it from a different perspective. I understand where Senator Hatcher is coming from, but this is a fee that will be put on any and everybody if you're sending it international.
Yes.
Okay.
If it's a money transfer,
If it's a money transfer.
not if it goes out of a bank.
Not if it goes out of a bank, but if you do it like, what?
Yeah, like a
you
Western
go to the
Union.
Western Union. So are we putting this, why is it just international? Why do we just put it on international? Why would this not be applied to cash? I'm not trying to put more tax on people, I'm just trying to be fair, level the playing field. And it would be more money to the coffers. But why would we just penalize the international people? Because you don't really know who's sending it. I mean, these could be legitimately hardworking people or whatever, who are citizens, if you look at that side of it. So why not just make it across the board and just saying if you're doing that kind of cash transfers, be it nationally or internationally, that's a fee.
I think starting with the international piece here that we have in the legislation is a good place to start. And again, if they're paying income tax, they can file for that tax credit when they pay their income taxes.
But why would we put, I'm trying now, I got all the paperwork on the floor, line up and everything, trying to get my taxes straight early on. And it's just hard. This is just another nitpicky thing that citizens are gonna have to keep up with, another little piece of paper. And again, I say, why don't we just make this uniform so people don't have to really figure out and keep up with it, say, okay, if you send it, let's just make it across the board. Whether you sending it to New York or whether you send it to Guatemala, everybody pays the same thing. I guess it's based on the amount, right? Amount of money they send.
It is, so it's a flat fee, $7.50. And if it's
Regardless of the amount?
regardless of the amount, and then if it's over $500, it's 1.5% from that.
I still think it needs to be just fair across the board for everybody, because you don't know. You really don't know, simply because money has a strange way. This is Alabama law. I can send it to a friend in New York or Chicago, and they can forward it on, Alabama's got this law. I'm going to get around it. It's kind of like me when it's a stop sign, well, there's traffic light that holds, so I always go around and come around because the light holds too long. Getting around it. I mean, just being honest. But there's always a way around it. I'm just saying that if it was flat and you wouldn't have to worry about that. I don't think it's a bad bill or anything like that. I just think that would just take that out because there's a way around it.
Thank you, Senator Coleman Madison. Are there any other comments or questions on the bill? Do I have a motion for a favorable report? I have a motion by Senator Chambliss, and I have a second from Senator Kelly. Oh, sorry, Senator Albritton. I assume long roll on this one? Okay, clerk, call the long roll, please.
Senator Albritton. Senator Carnley. Senator Coleman. Senator Gudger. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Coleman Madison.
No.
Senator Chambliss. Senator Elliott.
Aye. Okay, bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, Senator Weaver.
Mr. Chairman, committee.
Don't go too far. Senator Bell. You have SB 63.
SB 63 is a bill that we actually passed in '23. May the 24th of '23, we ran out of time for the House. It was on would have been on their calendar last day, but it didn't make it. It passed 34 to nothing in the Senate back in '23. And basically, if you're
Move for favorable.
Okay, so I have a motion from Senator Albritton. I have a second from Senator Kelly, and we're going to get to that. There has been a public hearing requested, Senator Bell, so don't go too far. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a little diatribe here on public hearings. We're tight on time for what we've got on the schedule, so I'd like everybody to speak for 1 minute, if you would, please. No, it's quite all right. Jasmine has signed up. I'm sorry, my eyes are not what they used to be, Linda. No, I don't think I can pull those off. But thank you. But anyway, come on up as we get started. I'd like for y'all to start, if you would, with what your name is and from where you hail. And then we have a rule here in the Senate where we stay germane when we debate things. And so germane just means on topic. And so what I'd like to do is just make sure that whatever your comments are related specifically to the bill in front of us. And so if we stay on topic, and we'll be in good shape. And audience, if you could just make sure y'all stay quiet and listen to who's speaking, whether it's a senator or somebody who's traveled a long way to come talk to us so we can hear them. So Jasmine, you're welcome to proceed.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine Hernandez Alamillo. I'm a constituent from Birmingham, Alabama. I've lived in Birmingham my whole entire life, but I'm also the daughter of Mexican immigrants. I see specific, reasoning for why you all should vote against this bill, specifically because this bill would require fingerprinting and DNA collection from illegal non-citizens, quote unquote illegal. There are concerns about how this information is going to be utilized and how this DNA inherently contains sensitive personal information, including, how predispositions to certain illnesses. So it's kind of raising questions, why do we need to have this information on file? I think also speaking personally as a daughter of immigrants, I have direct connections to the immigrant community. I am a pre-med student. I recently graduated from UAB with a Bachelor's of Science in Biomedical Sciences. I am actively seeking to pursue medicine and create better and more accessible healthcare for all. And this bill, as well as all of the other anti-immigrant bills, are only going to deter me from wanting to stay in Alabama and pursue my higher education, as well as thousands of other students who are wanting to do the same, because we want to be on the right side of history. I'm asking all of you, do you want to be on the right side of history? We have an extensive history in Alabama of racial discrimination, and this bill will only will only justify the need for racial profiling. And so I'm just asking you to just please listen to your constituents. Please, keep us in account and try to just work with us. We want to reach some kind of compromise.
Jasmine, thank you
Okay.
very much. We appreciate you coming and appreciate your comments. Next, we have Reverend Julie Conradi. Am I saying that correctly? Okay, thank you. Welcome. Just tell us, again, what your name is, make sure I got it right, from where you hail. I hate ending sentences in a preposition. It's a pet peeve of mine. So I know
Mine
that
as
sounds
well,
fun.
Senator.
Yes, sir.
Reverend Julie Conradi. I live in Birmingham and am a taxpayer and resident there. I am also the minister of Tuscaloosa's church as well. I'd like to start off my session with Leviticus 19, because it seems like that's really relevant to a lot of what we're discussing today, and just to remind us, as so many people of faith, what Leviticus 19 says: when a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you are foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So I would just remind, especially those senators who are people of faith, of that important thing. I'd also like to point out that ICE already has the resources to collect DNA samples from those people they are collecting. To add this to law enforcement's increasing burden to our local law enforcement, they're already struggling with increased violence and all these other things they're trying to handle. They do not need the increased burden of fingerprinting and DNA collection that is going to go somewhere. And if we're not asking everyone, all citizens, to provide this as well, then it's not fair to treat other people this way as well.
Reverend, we've gone a little bit long already. I'm sorry. I just
Wow,
have
okay.
a long
Well,
time to
I
get
am a
through it.
preacher, so I'll be back up in a minute.
Yeah,
Thank you
yes,
so.
ma'am. No passing the plate out there, okay? Okay, thank you very much. We have J.G. Clark next, and just if you would come on up, tell us from where you hail and state your name, and we got about a minute time clock on you there. So welcome to the committee, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm J. Gregory Clark from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm with Faith in Action, Alabama. I believe that these measures will bring judgment upon our state, upon our people, because as Reverend Conradi pointed out, we will be judged by how we treat strangers, widows, orphans, the least of these. And these measures are invasive and cruel. And if we can pass these laws in good conscience and not understand what the repercussions are for our families and for our communities, then we will be judged.
Thank you, Mr. Clark, and you win the prize for staying under the time limit, so thank you very much. Members, are there any questions for the sponsor? If not, I'll entertain a motion. I'm sorry. Yeah, he should have struck when the iron was hot, but he didn't. Yes, ma'am.
Wait, first, but I want to say,
Yeah, why don't you do that, Senator Bell? He didn't really get a chance to explain it because.
Okay, go ahead.
But let's.
this bill is, someone is in custody. They're already getting, I don't care who you are, you're already getting your photograph taken. You're already getting your fingerprints taken that are going to the FBI. We already have a list of individuals that are getting their DNA. That's already being done. This adds to the list we already have of getting done. This comes from a case in state of Alabama where a DA said he's in a trial on a murder case. And during the trial, in his case in chief, one of the witnesses says, hey, I know you're calling him this name, and it's a murder trial, but his name is really so-and-so. He's actually also wanted for murder in California. So they got it, once he got convicted in that county, they got a search warrant, got his DNA, sent it to California, and it was the same individual that committed a murder in California, committed a murder here in Alabama. That's how this kind of come about. We already have that. We have a DNA database. We're already putting Americans in. We already have all that. We're adding just one more group to this database. It's not, I think, with the media sensation, this is not what I heard on some of the people up here. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm trying to add what we're already taking from already people. We went through this in 23 before any of this immigration stuff come around. This was in May of 23 when we started this, and it come from that case. That case is what brought me to bring this bill. That case occurred in my district. That's why I brought this bill in May of 23. I have no other reasons for bringing that but this, as identification purposes. We put them in our database that we already have, the CODIS database. And that's why this is the bill's thick, because we're adding just one little paragraph into what we already have. So we're not creating anything that we're changing just because you're illegal. We're doing it already.
Thank you, Senator Bell. And just a reminder, this passed unanimously in the chamber.
34 to nothing in May of 24.
I understand. I understand. Senator Coleman Madison, any further questions of the sponsor?
Yes, the question that I have is, okay, so this information is already collected. Give me an example. So you pick up someone. I just want to make sure that, you determine that this person has committed a crime or whatever.
They've already committed a crime upon making bail. When they make bail, when they're booked in, their photographs are already taken, their fingerprints are already taken, but when they released, if they're released to ICE, if they're released on bond, anything, they just do the swab. The jails already have the swab kits because they're already doing other individuals.
Okay, I just want to make sure,
yeah.
I know we have time.
This
I just want to make sure that we're not, because see, I know people look and say, well, you could be profiling people. You're just not out there picking up people. These are people, this is a person that has already committed a crime. They've already broken the law. And so, yes. And the reason it passed is because we looked at, there are people that are arrested and they are released and they go out and commit another crime, and you find out later on, after you take the DNA test, that, oh, this is associated with this crime here. There's two sides to everything that you have to balance, so I understand that part.
How many places are we have now where code cases are solved by a new person getting arrested, and they do their DNA and find out 10 years ago, 15 years ago, their DNA today matched a crime that occurred back 10 or 15 years ago, and through our CODIS database, we're already collecting that. We're already putting them in there. This just adds one more group. It don't stop them from making bond. It don't stop anything. It's just adding to it, and I hate the misconceptions that are out there about this.
We just want to lay the fears that this is not about profiling people.
Has nothing
This is
to
somebody that has committed a crime.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Bell. Thank you, Senator Coleman Madison. I have a motion for favorable report by Senator Chambliss. Do I have a second? Oh, we did that before we even got started. Okay, clerk, if you could call the long roll.
Senator Albritton. Senator Carnley. Senator Coleman. Senator Gudger. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Coleman Madison.
Aye.
Senator Chambliss. Senator Elliott.
Aye. Okay, bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, Senator Bell. Senator Weaver, you are back in the hot seat. Committee, Senator Weaver has a substitute for this bill. My understanding is that she's made that available to you, and it is in your binder. The substitute, Senator Weaver, just so I'm clear, narrows the scope of the bill, and I think that's an important thing for the committee to understand, that this is kind of cutting things down from what was filed, so it should be less than what was in there originally. If you would, please explain your bill, and then certainly what the substitute does to the committee.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for clarifying that. We've had some discussion since the bill was filed yesterday, and I have taken the substitute to every member's office today and attempted to have a conversation with everyone. Some people were not in their office, but those were delivered, and the sub is in the packet. So this bill is a What is a Woman Act bill. It's based on fundamental truths that are as old as the book of Genesis and as reliable as the sun in the sky. Men are born men, women are born women, and one can never become the other. This is the simplest and easiest to understand bill that you will have during this entire session. It simply provides basic yet precise definitions for words man, woman, male, female, boy, girl, mother, and father.
Thank you, Senator Weaver. Could you describe the substitute just so we understand what's not in the bill
Yes.
that was previously filed? Thank you.
So the other bill had discussions related to some specific spaces and some other things that were discussed last year. This one only has definitions.
Okay, I just, committee, I'm just always real straight with you. I want to make sure you understand what's going on. Yeah, but not the substitute, I don't think. That's the important thing.
Senator Weaver, I was just saying, in your synopsis, it does mention about established single-sex spaces and environments in certain conditions.
Right, and although this bill does not specify, we're not changing any of that. We are only adding the definitions that are outlined in the blue in here.
That's why it's still in the substance. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's only man, woman, male, female, boy, girl, mother, father.
Okay, now tell me why this bill?
We believe that this will give some very definite guidance to the state agencies and other entities, because we're at a time that there's just been some very excessive and extremist claims that they're.
Okay, let's put ourselves in the state agency where people go before. Give me a for instance, because I've been who I am all my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really need anybody to tell me or a law to tell me who I am. I mean, half of the legislators, we label ourselves smart, but we don't have a bill to say otherwise, because I'm sure there are some citizens that would disagree with us. So put me in the state agency, give me a for instance. I kind of know, but I don't want to assume, where you're going.
Well, based on what you're saying, it doesn't change. I mean, you can identify as whoever you want to identify as, but this just puts into law what your sex is. If you are born a male, you're a male. If you are born a female, you're a female. And I believe it's a Women's Protection Act, because it would prevent males who identify as women from claiming that they have automatic right to access to specific women's spaces. And I believe we as women should be standing up for that.
The only thing about it is that, ADA has already dealt with that. You have, unisex bathrooms. I mean, you go in the bathroom and it's male, female on it, it's a single unit thing. Nobody else is in there with you. I don't see how it really protects women, because, I mean, all of this has been around since the beginning of time. Since you want to go back to the history of the Bible, all of this, including people who assert a claim to affiliate more with one sex as opposed to the other, regardless of how they was born. Never was this necessarily a problem until it becomes them and us. And so I don't think this bill really protects women. I think it creates more of a problem that we're trying to find a solution to a problem where people live their lives and they were fine until it became them and us, and they don't look like us, and they don't have the same principles and practices as we do. So let's change that. Let's pass a law to make them fit into this round circle here. I just have a problem with that.
Thank you, Senator Coleman. Thank you, Senator Weaver. Senator Chambliss, I got my own bottle of water, so I'll have to steal yours. Sorry about that. Okay, we've got a public hearing that's been called on this one as well. There are entirely too many people signed up on both sides, on one side of this in order to do this and still for us to get anywhere. I'm gonna start from the top and try to work, and we're gonna do a minute again. If you could, tell us your name, where you hail, and please stay germane. And you know, let's talk about this bill here. So we're gonna talk to Catherine Bartle. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. Hi, my name is Catherine Bartle. I'm from Huntsville, and I am a woman. I assure you that this is not a costume, nor is it by my own choice. I spent my formative years trying anything I could to fix myself, to try exist physically and socially as a man, and I realized that it was not possible. As I began to accept who I was and as I began to transition, I strived to continue following the rules I was raised with. I used men's spaces, men's locker rooms, men's changing rooms, men's restrooms, and very soon I figured out that I was not welcome there. Men have commented multiple times that I've made them feel uneasy by being in these spaces, and the feeling is mutual. But it's gone further than discomfort. I've been shunned, threatened, and sexually harassed for using men's spaces, simply for trying to do the right thing. In my attempt to avoid making other women uncomfortable, I sacrificed my own safety. The sponsors of this bill claim that it is for the purpose of defending women's safety, but it will do the exact opposite for the many women like me.
Catherine, thank you very much for coming. I think you were summing up anyway, but thank you for coming. And the next speaker is going to be Stephanie Smith with API. Stephanie, if you could please come up. We'll give you about a minute to make your point.
Members of the committee, thank you for having us. I'm Stephanie Smith. I live in the Birmingham area, and I run the Alabama Policy Institute. I rise in support of Senate Bill 79 and Senator April Weaver. This afternoon, I want to be very specific about what this bill does. This bill simply codifies definitions. It does not in any way try to deny anyone's experience, anyone's existence, their rights, their relevance, or their importance. It specifically defines what a woman is into statute. We believe that sex is determined at birth by God, at conception, and ask that the committee support this common sense piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mika Sanders. Welcome to the committee. If you tell us where you hail from.
Hey,
I
everyone.
did it anyway.
My name is Mika Saunders. I'm a lifelong citizen of Birmingham, and I'm represented by Senator Smitherman. Everyone here can agree on one thing: we want to keep the people in our lives safe. However, this bill would put Alabamians under the threat of violence and harassment and lead to bathroom bans and more. This bill solves no problems and creates new ones. If this bill were to pass as a transgender man, I would be forced to use the women's facilities. With my beard and receding hairline, I believe it is obvious that I'm a man. However, according to this bill's narrow definitions, I would be considered a female. There are many men in Alabama like me who, under this bill, would be required to use the women's bathrooms, locker rooms, and dorms. These men are my brothers, and I am a man, but this bill would have you believe that Alabamians are safer with me in the women's room with your daughters and wives. This would obviously make an uncomfortable and confusing environment for myself and the women using the facility. Additionally, I could be targeted by bystanders who think I'm trying to harass women in there despite me just trying to follow your law. Proponents of the bill may claim it's for women's safety, but any women deemed not looking feminine enough could be a target for harassment. This bill will not keep your daughters or wives safe and will instead open up them having their womanhood policed by strangers. Finally, this bill will make non-transgender people uncomfortable. It would require non-transgender women to share the changing room space with transgender men, some of who have beards and deep voices. This would be very uncomfortable for the non-transgender people involved. Please vote no on SB 79. Thank you for your time.
Mika, thank you very much. And I let you go a little bit long, but just because you clearly got more words in than anyone else, I was impressed with that. So thank you. Becky Gerritsen. There was an efficiency to that just has to be appreciated.
Good afternoon. I'm Becky Gerritsen. I'm the Executive Director of Eagle Forum of Alabama. I agree with Stephanie Smith. This is just about putting definitions into the law. And this is one of the reasons why it is so important. It really helps with vital statistics. When you're looking at cancer rates or all these different health things that come out, you need to know if you're dealing with a real man or a real woman. You need to know the truth. So that's one of the reasons, and just what I wanted to draw people's attention to, is that vital statistics are important, and this bill is going to help with that.
Thank you, Ms. Garrettson. This is going to be our last speaker. It's going to be Jace Fitzwater. Jace is here. Oh, he's coming right now. Well, good. We'll give him just a second. And Senator Weaver, I'm counting you as a proponent of your bill, so I'll let you speak. So we're going to have it a little heavy on the opponent side and kind of even that out. Jace, thanks for coming over. Sorry we had to put you in the overflow room. Got about 60 seconds, okay.
I'm Jace Fitzwater. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm a trans man. And like Micah was saying, what you're asking is for me to go in these women's spaces, and I have been threatened the last time this came around anyway. I was told if I go in these women's spaces, I don't even want to say what all was said to me. I've been threatened, and it's just for trying to, again, do what you think is right. And as far as the medical professionals, my doctor knows because it's a treatment. You have to have medical professionals to actually transition. There's a lot of steps. It's not cut and dry like you all are acting like it is. And I didn't prepare very well, I'm sorry. I wasn't planning on speaking completely today, but again, you're asking me to go in the spaces with your wives and daughters. Would you really want that? Probably not from just looking at me. And so again, I've been threatened for trying to do what you guys have done.
Thank you, Jace. We appreciate you coming today. Okay, Senator Weaver, procedurally, we need to get a motion to adopt your sub. So do I? We're gonna adopt the sub first. So I need a motion to adopt the sub. I have a motion by Senator Carnley, a second by Senator Hovey. And then let's go ahead and call a long roll on that. Oh, Senator Hatcher.
One of the concerns I have, I think Stephanie Smith, you just mentioned this. That basically you want to create these definitions that that would, I guess, be harmless. But the problem with that is when we codify these things, historically speaking, at some point, my ancestors were codified, when it became codified in the law that we were 3/5 of a person, that was a response to that. It was a very severe response. And I think the concern I have is, I'm having a real problem, Senator Weaver, with, legislating this, engaging with this type of legislation. Mainly because this is not a theocracy. And you express Christian views for your bill. And we know there are human fingerprints all over Scripture. And so the idea that we are finding ourselves in a position to define who people are based on any of this is just absolutely problematic. And I appreciate the people who have been courageous enough to come forward and share in ways that says to us who are in a position of responsibility around this type of legislation, that these individuals are saying, at least validate my existence. Because there are consequences if you don't. And so I think these are some of the type, and see, Senator Elliott, we were such good friends, prior to this meeting. I was hoping we could get through a week. But I appreciate the fact that there's been this kind of conversation about this. And my hope would be that, as we approach these types of things, that we keep in mind that we are talking about other human beings. talking about other human beings, and that we are not here, I certainly am not here to advance an executive order out of DC that seeks to say that as far as that person's concerned, that there's male and female. And so I just want to be clear that we engaging in further marginalizing folk and then coming up with this clever language about, you know, no one would be necessarily harmed by this, we're just doing definitions. We see you. And what we see is not good in terms of doing this to further marginalize people who are already marginalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hatcher. Okay, I have a motion and a second on the substitute, and we'd like to call the long roll.
Senator Albritton, Senator Carnley, Senator Coleman, Senator Gudger, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Kelly, Senator Coleman Madison,
No.
Senator Chambliss, Senator Elliott.
Aye. And the sub is going to receive a favorable report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Weaver. Senator Kitchens, you have SB 53.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today I bring to you SB 53. The premise behind this bill is to help our law enforcement officers, really to provide clarification as to the legal process on what they're supposed to do to be able to determine the immigration status of an individual that they have arrested in their jails.
Okay, thank you, Senator Kitchens. Any questions for the sponsor? We do have a public hearing that's been called on this one as well. We're going to try to move through this quickly. I'm cognizant of time. We're going to start with Jerome Dees. Come on up, sir. We're going to try to stay on our time frame if we can, so about 60 seconds.
Well, good afternoon, committee. Jerome Dees from Birmingham Southern Poverty Law Center. I will try and be as brief as I possibly can. Just want to touch on the fact that back in 2011, a lot of this had previously been attempted and was struck down by federal courts as unconstitutional. I know that in Section 3, it references that there's going to be a repeal of some of that language, but in essence, Section 2, in essence, tries to do a lot of that same unconstitutional language. Secondly, I want to provide an example. There's a reference to transporting people without a regulated immigration status across state lines, defined as human smuggling. I want to give a very quick example. If you are a classroom teacher in the Auburn, Opelika, Phoenix City area, and you go across state lines to, say, Columbus or LaGrange, and there are a handful of undocumented students who are in that class, you would technically be in violation of human smuggling and guilty of a Class C felony. There's language from Section 2 that, whether intentionally or unintentionally, aligns with language from the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, Sections 5 and Section 7 of the Fugitive Slave Act. Finally, some of the practicalities of the bill are to a degree questionable. I realize I'm out of time, but thank you so much for allowing me to raise some of these.
Thank you, Mr. Dees, and thanks for being cognizant of our time. I appreciate that. Next, we have Amanda Cherry. Welcome, Amanda.
Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Cherry. I live in Birmingham, and I'm speaking against SB 53. I have studied immigration. I've worked alongside immigrant communities in the U.S. and Mexico, and I've personally experienced how families can be impacted by the type of policies you're proposing today. I'm also here as a person of faith that calls us to love our neighbors, embrace those in need, and stand together in compassion and fairness. My husband is a Mexican immigrant, and he navigated a complex legal process to get his green card. Many undocumented people don't have the same opportunities or legal pathways, leaving them even more vulnerable. Just last week, a permanent resident was detained in Hueytown with great physical force simply because of his appearance. He presented his legal paperwork, but they didn't believe his green card was authentic until they took him into custody and checked his fingerprints. That could have been my husband. This bill makes it more likely for folks to be racially profiled based on their appearance or how they sound. As a person of faith, I feel disheartened when people who claim to follow Jesus and quote scripture, who Jesus was a refugee, and so I feel disheartened when people turn around and claim and try to pass laws that are that treat immigrants as disposable.
Ms. Dees, I'm going to have to call time on you, but thank you for coming today. I appreciate it. Rabbi Scott Loper, am I getting that right? Nope. Good job. Well, I'm doing well today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm going to quote something that was written by Martin Niemöller, who was a Lutheran pastor imprisoned in Nazi Germany concentration camp from 38 to 45. He wrote that they came for the communists. They came first for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist, and they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the, excuse me, I have to enlarge this, trade unionists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak up because I was a Protestant. Then they came for me. By that time, no one was left to speak up. And so I'm speaking up as a Jewish person and as a person of faith. And I imagine that you are people of faith. And so when we speak of faith, as has been spoken of, faith is about uniting people, not dividing them. It is recognizing the spark of God in every individual. And so when we start to look at people and see them as others, as dangers, as people who are going to harm us, we walk a very dangerous path. And that tradition has long been a tradition in the South. As Senator Hatcher referenced, for me, it takes me back to 1820 in the Southern Baptist Convention, in which the Bible was used to justify enslavement of people. And so when we start to justify instead of to look at who people are, and to stop looking at our actions and to demonize others, I can see you moving, I'm almost done, that this is a danger. And I hope that we will be able to be a state that is not one known for hatred and disturbing behavior at the least, but a state who embraces people, who embraces all who are amongst us, who want a better life here in our community.
Rabbi, thank you. I gave you about as much time or a little more than I gave Reverend Conrad. We try to be very respectful of our rabbis and our appreciation. So thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, members, we are on the bill here, and I've got a question from Senator Coleman Madison. Senator Coleman Madison, you are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you. Senator Kitchens, we talked about this early on. Some of the points have already been brought up, so I won't belabor those. But basically, and I asked you about the Good Samaritan Act. You have a part in here that you talked about the churches and the nonprofits and everything. And but you also have a part that is that if the person is a minister at the church, they may be known or unknown illegal. But if they are a minister at the church, been there a year, what have you, and the church would not be. They would have to have known that. I said, well, what about the person that's just a good Samaritan? You see a family out there in need, family of 5, mother, father, 3 kids, and you give them some clothes and food, and maybe they don't have any place to stay because maybe they're staying in their car, and you just out of Good Samaritan, you help them. Okay, so while the religious organization over here might be exempt, I, as a Good Samaritan, would be penalized. I look at this as everybody's being kind of caught in the net, and nobody really knows. It's going to be an uncertainty. So do you help? Or do you just shun the person, act like you don't see them at all? Are we going to be like the person that moved on the other side of the sidewalk? I have a problem with putting out a big net. Many of these people are hardworking people that are just trying to feed their families and survive. The same thing that we want, the same thing that you want for your family, young father and everything, the same thing that you would want. But why are we penalizing them? Now, I can understand if you out there committing a crime and doing something that's different. But we are throwing a net out there to catch everybody. And even the religious organization that you are trying to exempt here, they're going to be caught up in this because they go there to be fed, but the time you step off of that church parking lot or grounds into the street, you're just like everybody else. And let's face it, all of us look alike. Those who are brown, yellow, whatever, we all look alike. The other thing is that this is going to put an undue burden on law enforcement officers. Now they are being asked to serve as like they are federal agents to determine who, and they're going to be detaining a lot of people because they don't know. In the meantime, while you're being detained, you may be in there, just like the young lady said, her husband could have been caught up in there, but while the process is going on, even what's going on the national level, there are a lot of people being caught in that net. I know that it's been litigation in the court, but in the meantime, all those people that they have rounded up, and all of them are not illegal, they are there waiting for the trial. If you got a job, if you got a house, if you got a family, forget that. Your job is, they're gonna let you go because you're not there. If you got a mortgage that you're trying to pay, that's gonna be, now you're the legal person, but you look like the rest of them. I think it's a little bit overreaching, and I kind of, as we talk, try to understand where you were going. I said, but it needs to be more of a laser focus. But I'm really not about persecuting people. You know, I look at the Statue of Liberty, which I think we need to take down, because this whole thing of giving you're poor, you're tired, you're huddling masses, whole now yearning to be free. A country that was built by immigrants. People came here against persecution, and we become just what we ran away from. And if everybody would be honest and go back into your genes and look at who you are the other. They make these sci-fi movies about stuff like that, the others. We all others. I think this is a little bit far-reaching. And regardless of what is going on someplace else and on the national scene and everything, Alabama ought to be different. We have a history of persecuting and putting people down. We ought to be beyond that. We need to be the example. In Birmingham, we have this thing, because of civil rights, from revolution to reconciliation. We need to be a state that does that.
Thank you, Senator Coleman Madison. Any further comments on the bill? Senator Hatcher.
And I'll be brief. You know, one of the things that I think Mr. Dees pointed out that caught me when I was reading this bill, Senator Kitchens, is he mentions this language in the legislation that is aligned with the Fugitive Slave Act. Were you aware of that? Are you aware of the Fugitive Slave Act?
I'm aware of the Fugitive Slave Act, but I did not, there was no intentions that it was to mirror that language. It was to strictly say that someone who is here illegally and knowledge of them being here illegally to provide the tools for that.
Granted, and on the intention piece, because, you know, it's kind of like when my granddad was quoting someone, he says, you know, if you, it's an awful quote, but he says, if you stick the knife in my back 6 inches and pull it out 3, the damage is still done. And the idea of the human smuggling piece is absolutely capturing my attention. I think the rabbi mentioned and made me think about, for those who've read The Diary of Anne Frank, and what happened in the circumstances of people who were seeking to be more human, protecting our Jewish brothers and sisters, and from the atrocities that was about to take place, and that did take place for many. And that here it is, as I think Senator Coleman Madison is echoing, this notion of how are we being, you know, our brother and sister's keeper, in the notion of what we're talking about, this love ethic that we should be having. So I'm concerned, I'm very concerned, because we seem to be bringing forth this boilerplate legislation that all but almost always unassimilates Americans. And so the idea would be, you know, how do we go about a process here of doing something just a little bit different than what we may be seeing on the national stage? Because I do know you well enough to know that I do not believe that the intentions of your legislation is in any way meant to be harmful. But I do hope that what you are hearing is a real fact that it absolutely will be. And it may be that one of the things that we would be able to do is be able to talk a little further about, you know, what are you really seeking to accomplish with this? And whether or not there's a way forward in terms of doing what I think may be appropriate in terms of the idea of whatever it is you're attempting to get across. Because for me right now, the challenge that I have, and it's really not so much of a challenge because I'm always going to side with what I believe is the right thing. And this one just really, when I see human smuggling, stops me immediately in my tracks. And I'm very grateful, I don't know if Mr. Dees is here, but I'm very grateful that he mentioned the echoes of the Fugitive Slave Act, because it is this. And for those individuals who are familiar with the Diary of Anne Frank, it is this. This is the slippery slope right here. This is it. So we don't have, you know, I'm sure this will pass out of committee. I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman, that we've had people to speak to this bill, because we cannot leave this room not saying we did not know.
Thank you, Senator Hatcher. Okay, we have a motion for favorable report by Senator Kelly. Do I have a second? I have a second by Senator Carnley. Clerk, can you please call the long roll?
Senator Albritton, Senator Carnley, Senator Coleman, Senator Gudger, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Kelly, Senator Coleman Madison,
No.
Senator Chambliss, Senator Elliott.
Aye, and the bill receives a favorable report. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman of the committee.
We have two more bills, and they're mine. One that I skipped over earlier, and I really appreciate the committee's indulgence on this. The last one on your calendar, Senator Hatcher, Senate Bill 55. It deals with license, driver's license reciprocity. What's that? I have a motion by Senator Hatcher. And I have a second by Senator Carnley. Are there any further questions? Can you call the long roll, please?
Senator Albritton, Senator Carnley, Senator Coleman, Senator Gudger, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Kelly, Senator Coleman Madison,
Aye.
Senator Chambliss, Senator Elliott.
Aye.
Not there yet.
There was a public hearing on that. He caught me off guard.
Huh?
He caught me off guard. Committee, how do y'all want to handle that? I'll handle it however you want to handle it.
Well, let's rescind that vote and hold on and wait here for the public.
Let's do that. Okay, so I've got a number of people that have signed up, and please forgive me. I'm trying to juggle a couple of different things up here, and I simply missed that there was a public hearing called on it. We're moving right along. Mr. Dees, you've been very eloquent, but let's let somebody else go if you don't mind. And so we're going to have, let's see, Dulce or Victoria Riviera. Did I get that right? Close. Correct me, please, because I want to make sure I get it right and it's right for the record. And then if you can tell us where you're from, it's easier.
Hi, my name is Dulce Victoria Rivera, and I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, a proud citizen of the United States and the daughter of immigrants who are now proud U.S. citizens as well. And I urge you guys to please vote no against this. And there's a vast reason why. As a business owner and someone who contributes a large amount of tax dollars to the state, this could really hinder not just my business, but your home directly, and with our supply chain and getting groceries and getting anything delivered here. Because this bill, what I have seen is you are asking law enforcement to look at all of these states and know which ones are allowed to give licenses to undocumented immigrants. And so what are they going to do? Stop everyone that has a different license plate and ask them for their license, and then you come into racial profiling, because I'm pretty sure I would be asked to present official documentation to identify myself as a U.S. citizen, where you wouldn't. So that is racial profiling.
Thank you, ma'am. Reverend Conrad, just like I did to Mr. Dees, we've already heard from you, so I'm going to try to give somebody else an opportunity, if that's okay. And we're going to have Chelsea Stallworth. Is she here? She had to leave, I understand. Eric Hall. Mr. Hall, thanks for being here.
Let me say good afternoon to this committee. My name is Reverend Eric Hall. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I also serve as the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Birmingham and as a national organizer with Black Lives Matter Grassroots. I stand before you today as an activist and organizer with Black Lives Matter Birmingham, having dedicated nearly 10 years or a decade of fighting for justice. This movement was ignited by the tragic death of Trayvon Martin, which is a pivotal moment that still resonates deeply with our community. And today is Trayvon Martin's birthday. And so I felt compelled to speak out against this dangerous bill. Let me be blunt. This bill poses a significant threat to the lives and livelihoods of countless Alabamians. It's not just a piece of legislation, it is a potential death sentence for many who rely on their vehicles to navigate their daily lives, getting to work, attending medical appointments, or participating in their faith communities. We must stand firm against this legislation. It is more than just driving laws. It is about the humanity and dignity of every person in our state. We cannot allow fear and discrimination to dictate our policies. Let us unite to reject this bill and ensure that all Alabamians can navigate our roads safely and with the respect they deserve. Together, we can create a more just and equitable Alabama for all.
Thank you, Reverend Hall, and forgive me for not identifying you as a reverend. I apologize when you first came up. Okay, members, just to be clear, this deals with states that issue driver's licenses that explicitly indicate that it was issued to an individual who did not exercise the option of providing proof of lawful presence in the United States. So it's a license reciprocity issue, but it basically says you got a license from some other state that specifically says, we didn't check, we didn't ask that you were here legally, had any legal documentation that you were here. And so that is the sum total of the bill. I'm happy to answer questions about it, and then we're going to go through this whole motion second process again after hearing from the public hearing. Please forgive me for overlooking that earlier. Senator Coleman Madison.
Do we want to hear from the last speaker on there?
We just did.
No, I mean, there was one more that I know he's already spoken, but it's a different.
Senator Coleman Madison,
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to move on. I need to move on, and I've tried to manage this as best I
All right,
as I can.
I will respect the chair, but
Thank you.
remember,
Everybody on here has spoken at least once that's on this list for this bill.
I'm gonna go on, so you on.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Explain this to me. If a person comes here from another state that has a valid driver's license, so where do they stand? How does this work? Walk me through the process.
Yes, ma'am. So there's some states, not Alabama, there's some states that issue a driver's license without providing any, without the applicant having to provide any documentation that they're in the United States legally of any kind. They just give them a driver's license. We don't allow that in Alabama, right? You got to show something that says you're here. Now, usually we have a compact with other states that says, hey, we're going to recognize your driver's license. But for the...
Oh, no, put a point right there.
Got it.
So the person already has the license now.
From another state.
From another state. Is this when they come in to maybe, because you're in Alabama, you want to renew this license?
No, ma'am. This is when you're driving down the road in Alabama and you've got a license from another state. I'm not going to call anybody out, but you got a license from another state that explicitly indicates that it was issued without the option of providing proof of lawful presence in the United States.
It says that on the driver's license?
It has some indication of that. Now, I've got representatives from Aaliyah here if you'd like for them to address that directly.
Yeah, I would like to hear because, I mean, the law applies to everybody.
Gotcha.
Right? We pass laws that apply for everybody. So this would be applicable to any legal United States citizen.
Well, no, I don't know that I'd say that,
Why
but
not?
I do have Colonel Archer here, and if you could, she's got great questions, and I want to make sure we're answering them correctly. So I've got Colonel Archer here, and y'all all know Sam. So, Colonel, if you could help me answer Senator Coleman Madison's questions, I'd be appreciative.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator. To speak directly to the question, there are credentials issued in other states to persons that have not proved authorized presence in the United States, as they're
Gotcha.
traversing through Alabama,
Got your license?
as they're traveling through Alabama, this is what this act is addressing. As it relates to coming to Aaliyah and coming to Alabama and getting a license here, you would transfer in your out-of-state license. And we would go through a process of verifying your identity and then conduct any testing.
Driver's license don't have anything on there about,
Because we don't issue licenses without having some proof of being here lawfully. That's the difference.
we had to do, it's been so long, I don't remember what I had to have. I'm just trying to figure out, is this going to apply? Well, if we pass a law, it is a state law, it ought to apply to everybody. And so it seems like if you got somebody that's coming here, say from Oklahoma or whatever, do we know all the states that don't, how many states don't have that?
We do, like Colonel.
There are 19 states now in the United States that issue without verifying authorized presence.
So, again, I go back to my original statement. This would include, this is state law, but it would include other people who are legally United States citizens simply because those 19 states don't have it. Those persons who would be coming here would be subject to the same thing.
Please do, Sam, because I want to make sure we're real clear. So come on up real quick and
while he's coming, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Because now I'm afraid Senator Colbert Madison used my license. I'm trying to make sure I'm here legally.
I'll vouch for you, sir.
I guess my question and follow-up to her question, are these individuals who would be seeking residency in the state of Alabama?
No, sir. That's not
So
the
how will we
issue.
know if, for example, one of the questions I had was about the truckers
Yes, sir.
who are intrastate lines, if they are pulled over by law enforcement?
So forgive me, but I'm going to get you to look at that document, and I'm going to let Colonel Archer answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so if this law is applying to traversing through the state using an out-of-state license. Law enforcement would be conducting a lawful stop on the vehicle for whatever infraction may have been observed. We're going to have a conversation with them roadside. They're going to give us a driver's license. At that time, if it's a state that does indicate on the license that it's a driving privilege card, Vermont has one. That's, I think, a Delaware one there. Connecticut also marks their credential. Law enforcement could recognize that, and that credential would not be valid to operate a motor vehicle in Alabama.
And so it is indicated, members, it is indicated on the license specifically so that law enforcement can clearly see that this individual did not provide any indication that they were here lawfully,
Okay,
but that the issuing state issued them a license anyway.
but does the person commit a crime?
They're subject to the driving without a license citation.
So we give them a citation, and you say you can't drive in Alabama without a license, and you let them go, or do you detain them?
They have to have a licensed driver take possession of the vehicle.
Who deal with this?
That's me.
Okay, what happens?
So
I haven't fully read it, so.
I'm going to go with what the colonel said, but it is just like anybody else that doesn't have a valid license. It's been suspended, revoked. You have to have a license. You have to have a licensed driver take possession of the vehicle and drive the vehicle. You can't operate a motor vehicle without a license.
You're not locking them up, and you're not fingerprinting them, are you?
Not without some other issue. I mean, they're getting a citation.
Right, if this is the only thing. Now understand, like, in order to get to the license that's in your pocketbook or your wallet, the police department had to have another reason to stop you. So I can't speak to that. There may be some other action that they stopped you, but if this is solely, this would be a citation. This would not be a custodial arrest, is what I'm trying to say.
It's a ticket.
It's a ticket.
No, but you said you would detain the vehicle because the person could no longer drive the vehicle. If they're just coming through the state of Alabama,
correct.
Yeah, they could go anywhere.
then they can't, so, wow.
So you have to have somebody with a valid license come get the vehicle because
Senator Elliott, do we have the law enforcement power and manpower to do all of this, to be monitoring all of this when we say we are out trying to really catch the bad people?
Well, Senator, I think it's fair to say that if somebody has one of those licenses that specifically indicates that they didn't provide any documentation of being here lawfully, then they're probably not here lawfully.
Is that really what that means, though? Simply because you know, there are a lot of people that may not have a birth record. You know, I don't. Did y'all call Delaware, since you use Delaware, to ask them what all the things they considered because that's a legal document that they gave them. I'd be interested to know what criteria they are using, because there are a lot of elderly people that don't have. Well, that's why we came up with the non-driver's license ID, because people didn't have ID. So, you know, it may be some other reason. I just don't want to criminalize people when they're not criminals. Somebody could just be driving through the state and you just random stop them. Oh, you got one of those. And then you confiscate the car and say you can't. If I'm out of state, I'm just driving through. I may not know anybody in Alabama to come. But in the meantime, while you're waiting, they can't leave their car where they don't have no place to go.
Thank you, Colonel, but I'll handle that one. What this says is they have to have a valid license in Alabama in order to drive, and that if they will have one of these other licenses from another state that clearly indicates that they didn't provide that they were here legally in order to get them.
Be funny now.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we need to put up a sign and that have a big driver's license on it, that if you're coming through Alabama, and put it up on every interstate they're coming, but if your license look like this and it says, what's on there? Huh? No, it didn't. It says unauthorized driver? No, authorized driver.
So, Senator Coleman Madison, the statute does indicate that the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency shall maintain on its website a statement summarizing
No,
this.
I wouldn't have any reason to check the state website. I don't check it that often myself now.
Fair enough.
But I'm just saying, if I'm coming to the state of Alabama, you know, you have the big sign up, entering, welcome to Alabama.
Okay.
Right beside that, we need to have something up there that says, if your license look like this and it's got that authorized only for whatever, you won't be able to drive through Alabama.
I will work with you on that
Turn
legislation.
around.
I'll work with
Yes.
Yeah, in that state. But you're correct. We need to make it clear, and I'll help make it
That's
clear.
right. People won't know.
I got no problem with that. Okay. Good conversation as always. As the sponsor and a member of the committee, I'll go ahead and make a motion for favorable report. I have a second by Senator Kelly. We'll call the long roll. Clerk.
Senator Albritton, Senator Carnley, Senator Coleman, Senator Gudger, Senator Hatcher,
Yeah, yes, sir.
Senator Hovey, Senator Kelly, Senator Coleman Madison,
No.
Senator Chambliss, and Senator Elliott.
Aye. Okay. Bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, committee. We have one more, if I can go back to it real quick, and it's a bill that we have seen before. And it went through a lot of work. And so if it'll go back to tab 4 in your notebooks. This bill deals with libraries. Now, there's been a lot of talk about libraries, but I want to focus on what this does and try to leave out what it does not do.
I'll move it.
What's that?
I'll move it.
I have a motion by Senator Coleman, a second by Senator Hatcher, favorable report. Let's use the long roll so we can get everybody on board.
Senator Albritton, Senator Carnley, Senator Coleman, Senator Gudger, Senator Hatcher, Senator Hovey, Senator Kelly,
Let me
Senator
say
Coleman
this.
Madison,
Aye.
Senator Chambliss, Senator Elliott.
Aye. Thank you, committee.
And let me just say,
Senator
Mr.
Coleman.
Chairman, I support the bill because the bill doesn't do anything, doesn't take away any authority that the appointing authority doesn't already have. And the bottom line is that the appointing authority are elected people that the local constituency elects. And everybody has the right to do that. And of course, if they don't like the way they are governing, there's an election comes up, you can unelect them and elect somebody else.
I could not agree more, Senator, and I think it's a great way to handle an issue without getting too much in the middle of it. So if I may, real quick, just a moment of personal privilege while I still got some of y'all left. Thank you, committee. I really appreciate the discourse we've had today. Senator Hatcher, we often pray about being able to disagree, but do so agreeably, right? And I appreciate the folks that came out today to speak their mind. I appreciate y'all being calm and respectful of this body, articulating and being brief to allow us to keep this to only an hour and a half. So thank you all very much, and I appreciate you. Well, 7 years in, I've been trained. You've trained me well. So with that, the committee's adjourned.